I don't think I have ever been this excited about a speaker in my life. So today we have the Sony SS-CS5 bookshelf speakers. Now that's a mouthful and I don't know who comes up with these names, but one thing is for certain, Sony has made a unicorn. This is a unicorn. So this speaker can be bought for anywhere from $79 to $200. I bought mine for $200, which you can probably find for much cheaper, but to be honest, I think that I call me crazy, but I don't feel ripped off or I don't feel like I've overpaid for them because this thing sounds really, really good. Now let me tell you how I came across these speakers and why I decided to buy it in the first place. So, first thing is first. My friend Tujin, right, he goes into Best Buy and he hears this speaker at Best Buy. And then he tells me, Jay, these sound terrible. And I saw some reviews from your buddy, Sean Fowler from Zero Fidelity, and also Cheap Audio Man, and they both love the speaker and gave it a rave review. And I don't understand why. You should review it. You should review it. So I said, you know what? I should. So I got one, and this was our first impression listening to it together.
Okay. That was very humbling, to say the least.
Shit, I can't. Hold up. I can't. we were just fucking laughing in the background. Like,
Yeah, like we put it to the test. Like we played tracks that we knew. We knew tracks that were very dynamic, you know. And this is a
Tujin, I need you to say, were you wrong?
I was wrong.
So he shat on these speakers, right? He's like, I heard them at Best Buy.
I heard him in a retail environment. I was like, what are these guys talking about? You know, such great speakers for hi-fi. I mean,
Okay, so build quality, 100%. It's like $200 something, even less.
Like $100
Build
really.
quality is like mediocre at best.
Mm-hmm.
But the sound, what I just heard there,
Was fucking.
like you,
Sorry, I swore, but
you were like, okay, I'm looking for any artifact.
yeah, like any kind of artifact
And
thing.
you played like a track, and
Yeah.
then it hit, and then I was like, we were both hysterically laughing.
Yeah, cause it did it like flawlessly. Like it had extension too. Like it wasn't like.
It has bass extension, an actual bass extension. Mid-range is smooth, and you know what fucked me up is tone.
Yeah, yeah.
Dude, it gave me goosebumps because I'm looking at the price. I'm like, holy. Okay, to be fair though,
Mm-hmm.
Pentacameras. Why are you holding the camera? Are you that weak?
I'm very weak.
Okay, but okay, we gave it no excuse to be like we gave it full advantage. Meaning
Yeah.
like we have like
Really high-end back
high-end
electronics.
electronics are all high end.
It clearly scales.
It clearly freaking scales like hella a lot.
Yeah.
Now, when I review these, I'm going to definitely use something comparable in the price range
Mm-hmm.
to see what's up. But, dude, if it sounds like anything like what we just heard
Yeah.
with a budget integrated or a receiver,
It's a go-to.
I'll be fucked up. That's
That's
how
like-
good this is.
Yeah.
What the hell? And we did not expect this. I was ready to shit on these because Tujin said it was shit.
You know what? I'm wrong.
He was like,
I'm
buy these
totally
speakers. I
wrong.
bought these with my own money, by the way. I'm
Yeah.
not returning them.
Yeah.
This guy was like, these are terrible. You should review them. Everyone's saying it's good. You should give your take on it.
I mean, here's the thing. When people say stuff that comes off a little shilly or like unbelievable, like,
Yeah.
everyone's kind of guilty of
this
it.
is literally fucking unbelievable.
This is unbelievable,
Like,
yeah.
no filter. I can't even unswear. Because this is literally, out of all the things that I've heard, the most impressive. Because this, how much is this?
I mean, it's like $200, but like, I think Sean said it was on sale for
For
like $100.
$79?
Yeah.
Fuck that shit.
I would just hoard those. I would just buy it.
Dude, the Sony engineer that did this,
He's
they
a
need
goddamn
freaking raise.
genius. He's a
They
genius.
need a freaking raise for
Yeah.
this guy. Like the finish, when you look at it, like I said, the build quality is shit.
Yeah.
But like, the sound is like, what the?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a fucking unicorn.
It's very humbling because we were doing initial impressions on various speakers from
The other
much higher price points.
who reviewed it? Like we were just listening to $2,500 PSPs.
Yeah.
I prefer the tone on these and then PSPs. Fuck, no filter.
Yeah.
Sorry for swinging so much, but who else reviewed this? Cheap Audio Man,
Cheap Audio Man. I mean,
Andrew Robinson,
I'm not sure.
Sean. Anyways,
It's just a popular speaker that's kind of been around for a while.
like all the reviewers that review this out there, they didn't hype this. They undersold it, if anything. This is actually freaking amazing. Like the ability for it to fucking scale this much.
Honestly, it's like I think if after the final review, after doing pairing, yeah,
the
it wasn't.
high frequency fucking has refinement.
Yeah, it wasn't fatiguing. Or it didn't distort. Although there was that one.
There was
song.
a little bit of like background noise compared to the higher end speakers. That was noticeable. But like honestly, it didn't take away from the musicality.
It's
So,
honestly an incredible speaker to turn friends into audiophiles.
I don't care if you have like $3,000, $5,000 speakers or $10,000 speakers. I will still own one of these, because the way these image is like really good because they're mini monitors. I'm fucked.
Yeah, it was quite the experience.
They start looking to look better. So as you saw, Tujin was very impressed and I was very impressed as well. Like really, really impressed. Because we had very low expectations to begin with. But because also, for the money that this speaker is, it is like almost a steal. It is an absolute steal. Now this speaker is not the best speaker, let's make it clear. It's not the best speaker we've heard. Definitely not. Other speakers perform way better. But for the price, it is very, very good. It is very, 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 very good. It has somewhat of an unusual design with the super tweeter. And for a speaker that costs less than $200, super tweeters are kind of like a hit or miss from my experience. You have it in some high-end speakers, you have it in some mid-tier speakers. Really, it's not really a good indication of a good sounding speaker. But sometimes, from my experience, usually the ones with super tweeters tend to sound bright, especially if it's not done correctly. And so when I saw the super tweeter on this, I was like, uh-oh, but it sounds great. So we have a super tweeter, we have a normal tweeter, and then we have a mid-range woofer. So instead of a traditional three-way design, this is a little bit of a different three-way design. It's a pretty small, compact speaker that is categorized as a mini monitor. Now, when it comes to this speaker particularly, I would say that the build quality is definitely not there in terms of the finish, the fit, the fine design is not there. And that's expected at this price point, but also even relevant to that price point, other speaker brands like Fluence, Edifier, other brands have better finishes. I've seen better at this price point. So the finish itself, I would say, is about like a $50, $60 speaker that you would see, especially in person, is not very impressive. Nevertheless, the sound is what is impressive. So let's get to the sound. So this speaker is really, really impressive in the bass region, and I had this speaker about 1.5 feet away from the wall behind it. And having them towed directly at me, I found that this speaker sounded very, very good. And one of the reasons why Tujin found them to sound terrible at Best Buy is probably because they had them in an open space and not set up properly without proper amplification and so on. With these speakers properly set up, which is the number one important thing in your room, and having a proper space to play and project sound to, you quickly realize how good this speaker really is. And one of the things is having that right distance from the wall behind it, because this is a back-ported speaker, and by giving it a little bit of space, but not too much space, you get that bass, room gain, and that really allows the speaker to produce bass that is quite impressive for the size of the speaker. And I mean really impressive for the size of the speaker. For example, when I play a track like this, Madness, this track has a do-do-do-do, and it has this very full bass texture. Now, this speaker is a little bit wumpy. It's not very tight when it comes to the bass region, and that is expected due to the cabinet, resonance, and due to the cabinet, structure here. And because it is such a small speaker when it comes to bass heavy music, you cannot crank it to really, really loud levels. Now, I was quite surprised to find that this speaker can get pretty loud in a small and even a medium-sized room when placed properly with great amplification. I did find that, it's because it's a small speaker, you can't crank it up to really loud volumes with really bass demanding tracks, because then the bass demanding tracks would really clip the speakers at some point. And also, one thing that I want to emphasize here is that it has a maximum input power rating of 100 watts on the back of the speakers here. And I want you to kind of ignore that. And one of the things that confused me in my journey was, when speakers had these ratings of like maximum power input ratings of 200 watts, 100 watts, 150 watts, it really means nothing. You can drive it with an amplifier that is 200 watts, 300 watts, 400 watts. It really doesn't matter. What all that really means is that you really can't crank this speaker up to really loud volumes. That's all that it means. It doesn't mean that you have to use an amplifier under 100 watts. And given really good power, this is going to give you a very good bass performance on these speakers as well. Now the bass really kicks in about medium to loud volume on these speakers. At low volumes, there's not much going on. And that brings me to the next track that I tried, which was Blue Bossa. Now this is a very nice track with very good bass instrument. However, I found that it didn't sound as natural as I had with other speakers. Now with other speakers that I've tried, usually I run speakers that's from anywhere from $2,000 to $10,000 and more. So we're comparing it to really more expensive speakers. So in terms of tone in the mid-range and in terms of the bass performance, the bass tone, I would say the texture and everything is pretty impressive for the price given. Again, for the price given. Now when it comes to the mid-range, that's what is really impressive, is the mid-range texture and tone. This speaker is not a wimpy sounding speaker. When it comes to mini monitors or small budget speakers, usually the mid-range is all wrong in my opinion. The first thing I noticed is the tone is off, the mid-range texture is not there, it's not full body sounding, and sometimes it can be shouty and not very well refined. With this speaker, I find the mid-range to be quite exceptional, and that's what makes this speaker so special, is because the mid-range is really, really good. Especially in a track like She Burns. This track has beautiful vocals, she burns, she burns, she burns like petrol-soaked paper and fireworks. Beautiful song, I absolutely love it. And on this track, you hear the vocal dead center, but then there's full body presence to it. It's not lean sounding. There is presence in the bottom, octave. It's filling it up, and the room sounds full, even though speakers are very small. And because my wall is black, and the speaker is black, it disappears, and there's nothing but music that's filling my room. It is very, very pleasant. And there's no edge to the sound. I mean, there is edge to the sound in terms of, defining imaging, but you definitely feel like everything is very smooth and liquid in the mid-range, and we're talking about a speaker that costs less than $200. In terms of mid-range, I would say that it is very much an audiophile quality speaker. The bass, yes, it can do some work. High frequency we'll talk about in a minute, but in terms of the mid-range that we're talking about right now, the texture, the tone, yes, it's not a perfect speaker, but it's fun to listen to, and it is smooth and an audiophile quality speaker. And one thing that I noticed is that there's not much grain going on. So with speakers this, in this price category or budget speakers, you have some grain going on. Quite frankly, I would find that, speakers like the Triangle Bro 3, which is a $500-ish speaker, actually has more grain than this speaker does. So I found it impressive how this speaker has really clear mid-range and really crisp mid-range that is also smooth at the same time and liquid, so that it doesn't fatigue your ears in the long run. But again, the instruments can do a little bit of work in terms of how natural it can sound, but I'm just being picky here at this point in time. Now when it comes to the high frequency, now this is where the speaker really shines. You thought mid-range was good, the high frequency on the speaker is spectacular. Now, as my friend Tujin would say, he hates bright speakers. And even for him, this speaker was just smooth on the top end. He was very, very surprised. The high frequency is surprisingly refined. Like, the high frequency is not grainy or, unrefined or shouty at all. In fact, one of my tracks that I try all the time is this track right here, Honesty by Billy Joel. And when he sings, believe at about 1 minute, I wrote here, 1 minute and 27 seconds into the song, he sings, all I want is someone to believe. And then believe, he kind of projects really strongly. And at that point in time, this track can get fatiguing and bright with some speakers. I've heard this track specifically sound bright with Magnepan speakers, with some amplifier pairings, with clip speakers especially, and Focal, and Magical, and so on. That high frequency really becomes brittle and unrefined when he projects that way. But on this speaker, very surprisingly, the high frequency was very refined and unfatiguing. It was just enough of articulation so that I can make out all the words, but without that brightness or edginess or harshness to the sound. And quite frankly, on this specific track, I would say that I prefer it to other speakers that cost way more with a brighter projection of sound. Like Focal, Magical, and so on. I prefer this when it comes to this track. Now this track overall is not a very well recorded track. I would say it's about a medium, a regular, kind of recording. And so with some speakers that are really high end, sometimes it just doesn't do a very good job. I remember listening to Wilson audio speakers for some time with this track, and I found it quite fatiguing over a long period of time. Whereas this speaker is actually very pleasant to listen to and very easy to listen to tracks like this. And this is what I found, is that with poor recordings, this speaker is actually very good. So one of the tracks that I played, this is my LP, that people hate. People say, hey, that's a terrible recording by Aerosmith. And this is actually something that I enjoy a lot. And one of the tracks is Dream On, which is one of my favorite tracks. And it's also the first track on this. It goes, dream on, dream on. And it's not a very good recording. Like you guys said, it's not a very good recording. So when I test it with this on other speakers, it's quickly destroyed. Especially on the higher end speakers, it's quickly destroyed. However, on this speaker, it was actually enjoyable. Sounded better than with this song than other speakers that were higher end. And that's exactly what I want to see when it comes to budget speakers, because when it comes to budget speakers, you really want, and with really any speaker, really, but especially with budget speakers, you really want it to play, well with poor recordings. However, there is a compromise. Not everything is awesome about the speaker. This speaker is not very good with higher end recordings, very well mastered and mixed, recordings. It quickly shows the flaw that this speaker has when it comes to very well recorded music. Very well recorded music, if you don't know, it's very good at showing what the speaker is capable of and also showing its flaws. So when I test higher end speakers, I usually play really well recorded audiophile music, and usually those sound best, but at the expense of poor recordings, because poor recordings now is destroyed because the speaker is very good at projecting and showing all the details of the music and all the nuance of the music. So the poor recordings seems more or worse because it's really dissecting each of the recording parts. So the recording itself is really taking the opposite effect when it comes to this speaker. When you play really well recorded music, then the speaker seems a little bit less impressive than audiophile speakers. It's still enjoyable, but it's not as impressive. So it starts to scale down when it comes to really well recorded music. So that's something for you to consider if you're not going to be impressed when it comes to audiophile recordings when you play the speaker compared to your audiophile speakers. Where the speaker really shines is, in my opinion, poor recordings and regular recordings, not super well recorded masters, audiophile masters, and so on. So another track that I tried here, that I wrote here, is Wonderful Life. Oh, this is a beautiful song. Beautiful song. No need to laugh, no need to cry. Wonderful Life. Wonderful Life. Now this track is a beautiful track. The vocals are dead center. And this is one of the things that I like about this speaker a lot, is that because it's a mini monitor and small and compact, the imaging is dead center. And when you have these speakers toned in, and I had these pretty aggressively toned in, hitting my ears on both sides, and this really gave me a pinpoint imaging down the middle, but also because this is a mini monitor, the soundstage is large, and you can hear all the nuances in the music very, very well without fatigue. It is a very beautiful, beautiful sound that this speaker has. And on this track that I'm talking about specifically, the vocals just float. It's a very floaty effect, and it's not a lean sound but a full body sound, which is something I really like about this speaker. Usually when it comes to budget speakers, what you get is like a tilted up high frequency and this big wumpy bass. So you get kind of like a V-shaped sound for kind of that impressive factor, right? Lots of detail, lots of bass, but the mid-range tone and texture is suffering. But this speaker is a very good all-rounder speaker. In fact, mid-range and high frequency seems to be where their concentration is at and where their highest strength is at. The bass could do some more work, definitely. It is satisfying, but it's not tight enough for my liking. But when it comes to mid-range and high frequency, I would say it even competes with speakers around $500 to $1,000 speaker range. Now, I would say an obvious upgrade from the speaker would be like the Triangle Bro 3 in terms of the bass texture, the tightness, and the mid-range tone especially. But when it comes to high frequency, I find that this speaker is less fatiguing than the Triangle Bro 3, and I almost prefer it. Almost. It's a hard choice, but I prefer this in terms of that smoothness on the top end without fatigue and the details and so on. So this speaker really has its place when it comes to a speaker that costs less than $200, and if you can get it at the lowest price point of $79 and around there, then this becomes a quick steal for the performance. Incredible. Now we have to talk about the amplification. Now the amplification that I tried initially was just over the top. I had it with a Denafrip stack, now which cost a lot more and makes no sense to try it with these speakers, but I did anyways because I wanted to see how good these speakers can be without compromise. Now, well, that was very impressive, and I'm glad I did it because this speaker can scale really good. It's very impressive. And what I mean by scaling is like, you put in better equipment, you hit that threshold at a point and it doesn't sound good anymore, right? It doesn't sound better. Well, this speaker is really good with being able to scale. It just sounds better and better and better with better equipment. But obviously, like I said, it makes no sense to pair a $79 to a $200 speaker with something that costs 10 times more. So I went ahead and tried it with a few different things like SMSL, topping, budget options, mostly all-in-one options to give you that, minimalistic system. And even for like a TV system or just a little console system, this will be great. So I went ahead and left some recommendation in the description below. I won't go into every single one of them because I tried quite a few for a short period of time and found what is acceptable. But when I say acceptable, I mean that it is good and all I said in this video is true. But when it comes to the highest performance that the speaker can really achieve, a dedicated $500 to $1,000 integrated unit like the IOTAVX or even the Burson Funk integrated amplifier and so on is where I find the best performance is at. And I know that's a little bit ridiculous, but I'm just telling you my findings, and I'm not suggesting you use a $500 to $1,000 unit, but I really feel like it kind of deserves that when it comes to the performance. When you give that kind of upgrade to the speaker, it really wows you and really gives you that upgrade. It's a definite upgrade. When you come to that level after a $1,000 integrated unit or so, around that price point, it starts to give you a diminishing return when it comes to upgrading, and putting in better gear. And in terms of power requirement, I would say anywhere from 50 watts to 100 watts around there would be plenty to drive these speakers. And more the merrier for power, but those get expensive. So even Class D amplifiers is a good option if you want to look at budget Class D amplifiers. That would do great with these speakers as well. And so that's pretty much it. I absolutely loved these speakers, and I plan to keep the speaker, and I bought it. I'm not returning them. So that's how much I like it. Anyways, so I'm happy that I can share this with you, and I'll see you guys on the next one. If this video was helpful to you, then make sure to subscribe and click that like button, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.